What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to break down some bad news that just came out for Tesla, which is why the share price is down quite a bit. Also, what's going on with other factors involved in the markets, as we have the economic calendar to be discussing, not to mention some important earnings. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. Sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon in just about 3 weeks. Anyways, for Tesla, I just wanted to mention that we're down pretty hard right now in the pre-market. I did call downside yesterday for the market as my prediction. I told everyone that Tesla will likely test 175. If that broke, we have this gap to fill all the way down here towards like 169 to 170. That's very close to where Tesla is right now. So we called this move, and there's a risk of a bit more downside because of some bad news that just came out. So let's talk about Tesla. What's the bad news that just happened? The first thing you have to remember is what I talked about yesterday. Tesla must provide the NHTSA with autopilot recall data by July or face up to $135 million in fines. That's not good for any company. That's the first piece of news. So that is coming out once again because of the fact that they had what the media describes as a 2 million vehicle recall. It wasn't a typical recall. Tesla fixes it with a software update, of course. So that happened, right? Tesla had an issue. They did their software update for 2 million of their vehicles to fix the issue. What's happening is the NHTSA is investigating it, and what they found is that there were still more accidents which were involved with FSD and the autopilot driver assist system. So with all of that happening, they need a lot more information. They sent an 18-page document requesting important data related information about how it works, how it interacts with human behavior, and they have a deadline of July 1st to provide everything, or else they're going to be fined about up to about $135.8 million. That's the first negative piece of news. I was talking about this since yesterday. And then this piece of news came out. This is also pretty big. In Tesla Autopilot probe, the U.S. prosecutors focus on securities and also other things involving fraud. So, U.S. prosecutors are examining whether Tesla committed securities or wire fraud by misleading investors and consumers about its EV FSD capabilities. 3 people familiar with the matter told Reuters Tesla's autopilot FSD systems assist with steering, braking, and things like that, but they're not fully autonomous. And Tesla has warned drivers to stay ready to take over driving. The Justice Department is examining other statements by Tesla and Elon Musk suggesting its cars could drive themselves. So that is leading to this big investigation right now. US prosecutors are getting involved and they're trying to focus on whether or not Tesla was fully honest, what is the legal aspect of this, and whether or not Tesla was being honest or not, and is there any fraud involved. So this is very negative news for Tesla. This is negative news for any company, and they're continuing to investigate everything like that. There's also this news right here that the Giga Mexico jobs are disappearing from the company's career page. This is showing that Tesla is once again not as interested in hiring as many people because of some difficulties that are happening to the company. Tesla's margins are not as great. Their profitability is once again not as great as before. And that's amidst the higher rates right now. With all of this going on and all of this happening, with higher interest rates, it's leading to a lot of hardships for Tesla, a lot of contraction for the company. And as a result, it's really affecting their labor market. So Tesla's laying off a lot more employees. They have to remove listings from the company websites. And that's actually getting a lot of attention right now. And that's part of why we're starting to see, once again, a big shift in sentiment right now. And that's why Tesla's starting to dip the way it is. That's why we're already down to 170. I called this move yesterday. We're down to almost 4%. So what do I see moving forward? Our resistance is at 172 and 175. Our support is at 170. If we lose this, we're going to dip all the way down towards 167. If that fails, let's look for 165, and then 162.5 is our next support zones. As of right now, I do believe that because we failed to bounce right here at 175, there is a risk of this coming all the way down to fill this gap in the 169 area, and then eventually 167.5 is a strong possibility, and much lower levels. But I just want to say that I called this downside move yesterday. The majority of the move is already here, and there is a risk of more downside with all this negative news for Tesla. All right. Just a few more things. When it comes to economic data, today is Wednesday, May 8th for the overall markets. There's not really a whole lot coming out for today. At 10 a.m., we have wholesale inventories data. Everything else is very, very minor. And then at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Jefferson giving a speech. At 11:30, we have the 17-week bill auction. Then we have Collins' speech, the 10-year notes auction at 1 p.m. And at 1:30 p.m., we have Cook giving a speech from the Fed. So between 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m., look for some volatility. We will see what the Fed speakers cause, and that's what I'm seeing for the markets for now. This is what our earnings calendar looks like. As a reminder, Uber and Shopify are both down from earnings. Shopify had so-so earnings overall, but their forecast and revenue is not the best. We're looking at the lowest revenue growth in 2 years, which is why the share price is down. And for Uber, overall, they beat expectations for revenue, but they had a net loss overall in terms of profitability. And guidance was so-so, and that's why the share price is just crashing right now for Uber. So, unfortunately, despite good revenue, things are not looking as good in terms of EPS. And overall, guidance was just so-so, not as great as what some investors were looking for. So Uber is tanking, so is Shopify. That's the reason why I just want to call that out. Anyways, going back to the stocks, be prepared for some more potential downside for Tesla, sadly. It's not the best of pieces of news coming out involving the U.S. prosecutors and the NHTSA, and please be open-minded nonetheless about all of this. How about for SPY? In my video from yesterday, I called out that there's likely going to be a move to the downside coming, and that is exactly what happened today. We're dipping right now. We have 514 as our next target. 513.5 is next. Then we have this support at 512.5. If that fails, this 511 is coming all the way down here. So I suspect we're going to be coming down to at least 513.5 on SPY, if not 512. And if that fails, let's look for a move all the way down closer to about the 511 area. So watch those three levels. We're currently at support at 515. If that fails, we're coming all the way down to 513.5 and lower levels. So there is more downside potential. For resistance, make sure you watch 516.5. There is a risk of SPY dipping lower as we have a head and shoulders. So keep that in the back of your mind that this chart is looking weaker. The QQQ is at support at basically it's just above the 437 area. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 435, then eventually 433. Our resistance happens to be at 439 and eventually 441. With this head and shoulders, there's going to be a risk of this kind of popping a bit and eventually selling off. I think we could be coming all the way down to the mid 430s. There is a risk of the QQQ dropping lower looking at the technicals. So we have a head and shoulders. I did call this out in my video from yesterday, and I told you to be prepared for more downside. That's what's happening so far. For Nvidia, we called out the potential for Nvidia to drop to 895, the lower end of this range. That's exactly where Nvidia is. There's a risk of this dipping lower as we have a gap to fill down here to 885, and even lower levels all the way down here to our 200 EMA at this 870 area. And then we also have Aapl. Apple's also looking a little bit weaker. We're kind of up and during the pre-market, but I do see a risk of us coming down to 182 and just continue to trade sideways. And this could actually dip a little bit. So look for potentially a move all the way down to the 50 EMA at 181, then eventually 180. There's a risk of a little bit of downside. For Amazon, I called 190 as our target on Amazon, and then I said to watch resistance up there. I said that in my earlier videos, and we got there. And then I said yesterday, once we reached 190, look for a move back down to 187. That's where we're at right now. If we hold this area, and let me actually pull up the 4-hour time frame, I think that this is a lot more. This is more sufficient, at least for bigger moves. I think that Amazon's going to come all the way down to 185.83, and we'll have to see if it bounces or not. But at least 185 is coming. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 183. But those are the levels to watch for. For Meta, we're also dipping a little bit. Look for 460 as our supports, followed by 457.9. We are looking a bit more bearish on Meta as we rejected off 472, the exact level we called out for the top. So now we're turning back down. For the VIX is starting to bounce. I noticed it's actually starting to bounce. So I said that for the VIX, we do love to bounce off the low 13s to the 12s. It is starting to bounce right here. The 12.5, the 12 area, it's about the very, very low 13s is where it tends to bounce at. We reached almost 13.5. We almost completely filled this gap. Now it's starting to turn a bit. So if the VIX gets a big bounce like this could be because the market is about to get a big rejection. So I just want to call that out and give you guys a heads up about that. All right. So that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate every single one of you. Thank you all so much for listening. Get ready for some more volatility in the markets. And just know that there is a risk of more downside, especially when you look at stocks like Tesla and beyond. Okay. So looking at Tesla, this stock is looking weak right now. We called the gap fill, and there is a risk of even more downside looking at the technicals. Please be prepared. When we open in the morning, look for a little pop before it continues lower. And I think that there is a risk of even more downside with all this negative news that's coming out. So just be prepared for that. Make sure you're mindful of this. And I want you guys to be prepared for anything. So just know Tesla It's going to shuffle a bit, then eventually start dipping lower. It could continue to fall. Watch the support levels I called out, and we'll see how things go. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.